The judge announced a break in the hearing and left the courtroom through his door. His wife, Vera, who was acting as the defendant, was talking about something with her lawyer. Zakhar was sitting alone. He didn't have a lawyer. He had only brought in a defense attorney for the first court hearing. Now Zakhar didn't understand what was going on and why the process was dragging on so long. He knew that his wife was against the divorce, not because he had caught her, but because he had caught her cheating on him. He also understood that this was the second hearing and the court had to make a decision. However, in his opinion, everything was starting to sink into the confusion of dividing the property. Vera finished her conversation with Agda. The lawyer stood up and headed for the exit of the courtroom. On the way, she approached the bench where Zakhar was sitting, and smiling, she said, "Zakhar, my dear, I suggest you withdraw your claim." "No, Vera. It's already been decided. We'll never forgive you for the humiliation I felt when I caught you in bed with your boss at our dacha, and you beat up my boss. That was clearly unnecessary. Themes more to chase him through the garden plots. Yes, and also through the neighbor's trout field overgrown with nettles. You had a chance to hide this innocent prank from his wife. But after the beating, yes, in front of many employees of our organization who received plots at that dacha, this became impossible. Yes, it was an excellent cross-country race through the vegetable gardens. You ran especially beautifully. Although I did not even chase you, and they gave you only 15 for this. I do not understand why the court took pity on you so much. Go to the judge for an appointment and ask if I have served my term in full. My lawyer believes that your behavior amounted to especially malicious hooliganism. For this, you could be locked up for 5 years. It's good that your lawyer is not a judge. I recommend once again withdrawing the command. Once again, claim otherwise I will undress you, which means I will walk naked like you that day in the vegetable garden." Vera did not answer anything. She only chuckled, returned to her seat, and again began talking about something with the lawyer at that time. An announcement was heard, "Get up. The court is in session." The hearing continued. Following the results of the consideration of the claim, Zakhar, the court, made a decision to dissolve the marriage between him and Vera. Additionally, counterclaims filed by Vera were considered. As a result, Zakhar was really left with nothing. Vera evicted him from the apartment, and all the property in it remained with her. In addition, the court ruled that Zakhar is obliged to pay child support in the amount of 50% of his income. After the hearing, Vera approached him again and said, "Even though there is a court decision, it is not too late for you to return home." "Why? We have a family." "We did not have a family. We did not have a family, and in a month when the court decision comes into force, this will become only part of the story. And now I will go. I still need to decide where to live. I offered you shelter, but don't you dare to poke your nose into my dacha. You took the dacha for yourself. Didn't you listen to the court's decision? It hasn't come into force. Yet it doesn't matter if I find out you're at the dacha. I'll immediately call the police. And what do you suggest? You go home to the dacha? You can't go home this way, because all the men in the area are shying away from me. I'm shying away from me." "Away too? He left our city." "What about his wife? She divorced him a long time ago. Their court decision has already come into force. You see how lucky he is. But you're unlucky." The next day, Zakhar was called to the director of the enterprise. This invitation surprised him. When he entered the office, he sat down opposite the manager, and he started a conversation. "Zakhar, you've been working with us for a long time, but speaking no complaints against you. I have no complaints, but unfortunately, they are pressuring me, and I am forced to fire you. I advise you to write a letter of resignation. I will say frankly, I don't think anyone will hire you, but I have alimony. I don't know what your wife is trying to achieve, but I think she set the no bailiffs on you, and what should I do? You have a place to live for. Now I live at my neighbor's dacha. He doesn't live there, and what will you do in the winter? I'm thinking about it, but it will be hard to live on the street. Listen, I can offer you an option to leave our city somewhere in the neighboring district. There you are out of reach. You are a good specialist, and you will be able to get a job, especially since I will give you oral recommendations." "Why?" "Because in the company where I recommend you, The founder is my cousin Svetlana. If you agree, I will call her, and where will I live? There, rent an apartment. They just need a specialist like you in their district. You can't find one here. You can't stay. You won't be hired anywhere when I need to go and where to go yesterday. But you didn't have time, so now you will receive your payment, get into our gazelle, and drive it to that district. I sold this car to my sister. Take your things so as not to be seen here. By the way, what do you have with the elements? There is no debt, but there is a question. The children are not mine, and whose, I am not sure. But she called him Yasha in conversation. Interesting case. Yasha, or Yakov Alexeyevich, district prosecutor. This explains a lot, only where they could cross paths with him. And twice, it seems to me, this explains nothing. At least for me. Yes, it's not surprising you are a husband, and a husband is always the last to know everything. This is the law, and why was everyone silent? Nobody wanted to meddle in other people's affairs. It's good if the prosecutor is the father of my children. Can I hold him accountable? Wait, Zakhar. I just assumed you never know other Yashas first. Get evidence. Are you even sure that the children are not yours? I don't know for sure, but I have already sent the materials for the DNA test. And where to send the answer to your wife? I thought about it. The answer will come to my friend. Or rather, he has already come today when I pick up my things. I will receive the results, so you spent the night with him. No, Vera knows him, and could arrange some kind of provocation. Okay? Here are the keys to the car, and documents go to personnel. The accountings go to personnel. The account department will give you the calculation in hand. Vera left the court unhappy, but according to the lawyer, she knew that nothing could be done. How everything turned out stupid. She lived well with Zakhar, whom she picked up after she became pregnant from her lover Yashka. Yashka was older than Zakhar and already started his career in the regional prosecutor's office as an assistant prosecutor. When Vera told Yakov about her pregnancy, there was a quarrel. He gave that he first needed to make a career. Soon he left for the regional center without telling her anything. Then she started dating Zakhar. She managed to convince this bear that she was expecting a child from him by the end of university. She gave birth to a boy, having arrived to live in the regional center. Vera met Yakov again. By that time he received the rank of justice advisor there. Roman Piknu with renewed vigor, and Vera became pregnant again. However, Yakov was afraid that this could interfere with his career, especially considering that he had already found a partner for himself, the beautiful Nika. Her father worked in the regional prosecutor's office and could influence Yakov's career. He broke up with Vera, although he occasionally called her but no longer met. Meanwhile, at work, Vera, like all the employees, was teaching for the construction of a dacha. Zakhar, showing ingenuity, bought a log house in the village, dismantled it piece by piece, and soon built a beautiful house on the plot. It would be possible to live in it, but the stove heating required a lot of firewood. There was electricity in the house, but it was unreasonable to heat it with electric appliances. The neighbors in the Dacha Association also built their houses. Vera, unexpectedly for Sai, started an affair with her director, Kirill Fedorovich. He also had a plot in the association, but so far nothing was being built there. He devoted all his energy to the construction of his own cottage. Kirill Fedorovich preferred to meet with Vera in her dacha house. Usually there was already an improvised bedroom there. Zakhar enters. He had a piece of hard rubber hose in his hands, with the help of which they collected water. Zakhar hit Kirill with all his might on his bare buttocks. He howled in pain and fell into the space between the bed and the wall. Jumping up, Kirill received a second blow to the face with the hose. Vera then thought that if Zakhar had hit him with his fist, he would have simply killed him. Blinded by the pain, Kirill jumped over the bed like kangaroo and rushed to the door. There Zakhar got him with a third blow to the back. Kirill fell head first, but quickly got up and ran out the door. Vera, afraid that her husband would take care of her now, jumped out the window. In the meantime, Zakhar chased after Kirill, who in a panic turned onto a neighboring plot overgrown with nettles. He ran along it, burning all the unprotected parts of the body. Zakhar caught up with Kirill. Squeal had not brought the neighbors running. Zakhar was dragged away from Kirill, and one of the compassionate neighbors gave him clothes to cover his nakedness. They hid Vera in their house on the neighboring plot. The police soon arrived and took Zakhar away. In the meantime, an ambulance arrived and took Kirill away. The hard hose cut his gluteal muscle and also left wounds on his back and face. Vera did not know what to do. She did not want to lose her husband and decided to turn to Yakov. Collecting her and Kirill's clothes from the garden house, she called a taxi and went to the hospital. There in the corridor, she was met by the investigator, who had just left the ward, having found out who she was. He asked Vera to tell her what had happened. After that, Vera thought about it. Kirill Fyodorovich, by and large, meant nothing to her. Yakov was not the solution to her problems either. But Zakhar was considered the father of her children. Besides, he had a stable job and a good salary. Vera decided that Zakhar needed to be taught a little lesson, perhaps send him to jail for a year, but then he had to return to her repentant and ready to kiss the ground. She walks on. The next day, she called Yakov, and they met in a cafe. The conversation took place as between two old acquaintances. After listening to Vera, Yakov noticed the whole city is laughing at this incident. "You should have told me the Supreme Court yesterday." "I was confused," Vera answered. "Where is Zakhar from the police now? He hasn't returned." "Okay, I'll call now." Yakov dialed the head of the police department and asked what's going on with us, with this robber from Nettles, initiating a case under the article especially malicious hooliganism. Isn't that too harsh? Tell me what you would have done if you had caught your wife with her lover. "I would have shot him, you see." "You can say he spared him." "Yes. Not only was the hose put in the entrance Zakhar, they also trampled him decently with their feet. What a lesson. We didn't include this in the summary. But this morning his wife visited him, and what did she say? Almost nothing. After her visit, Kirill was taken away for surgery, then to intensive care. And what does he say? Fell from the height of his own height in the ward when he got up to go to the toilet. And what? Yes, nothing. He will never have children. And his wife, Yakov Alexeyevich, she is a beautiful woman. She now has her whole life ahead of her. Then something happened that Vera did not plan at all. Zakhar was given only 15 days for hooliganism. Having learned about this from Yakov, Vera, trying to reconcile with her husband, brought him a parcel, but Zakhar refused to accept it at that time. Vera herself began to have problems at work, which she still managed to hush up. However, many who had summer cottages plots with a smile looked at her, and some of the neighbors even saw her jumping out with a squeal after her. No one chased Kirill Fyodorovich after being discharged from the hospital. No one saw him. Again, he quietly moved to another city and had to divorce Vera. The new director of the company where Vera worked tried to fire her, but he was clearly made to understand that he himself would follow her. Vera turned out to be untouchable. He realized something and began to think about many things. When Vera brought Zakhar a parcel to the temporary detention center, he refused to accept it. Then she sought a meeting. When they brought him to the meeting room, Zakhar, seeing Vera, immediately turned to the escort. He would not speak. The escort was busy with other things, simply locked Zakhar in a small box. Vera, leaving the meeting room, stopped not far from the box where Zakhar was and called Yakov. Yasha. He refused to accept the parcel and does not want to meet with me. The interlocutor answered something, and Vera added, "I understand that you did everything you could. Thank you. We can meet today at my place at home." Zakhar heard their conversation, but he was especially struck by the following phrase of Vera means, "Why look at your children, appreciate how Zakhar raised them." These words were etched in Zakhar's memory. Now he needed to find out who is Yasha. After serving his sentence, Zakhar returned home. While Vera was at work, he decided to cut the children's hair, taking samples of their hair for DNA analysis. As a result, his son and daughter got fashionable hairstyles, and Zakhar carefully collected his hair in bags for Vera's arrival. He collected his things that he could take and left the apartment, having gone to a friend's place. A friend suggested that Vera, knowing his address, will start to do dirty tricks, will send the police, or will show up herself with accusations of beating Zakhar. Agreed with his friend's arguments and went to the dacha, Where it all started, he decided she would not look for him there while it was summer. You can sit it out. But today you need to think about the future. The next day, Zakar walked around the area, collected firewood for the stove. And on Monday he went to work. They were already waiting for him in the workshop. A lot of different problems with imported equipment had already arisen by lunchtime. Most of the faults were fixed little by little. Poddle to the master, where my brother worked at a neighboring enterprise that was engaged in woodworking. My own will do where to take. Yes, I'll go with the car. They brought the scraps and unloaded them on a neighboring site overgrown with nettles. The next day Zakar went to a legal consultation advice. On divorce he received exhaust. While Zakar discussed the issue, many employees of the consultation, under various pretexts, they came into the office. Everyone wanted to look at the man who drove his wife's lover into the nettles. In the end, everything was decided, and they prepared a statement of claim for him. Vera tried to meet with her husband, but Zakar did not answer her calls where he lived. She did not know when to his friend, but he honestly explained how from P days he went out, came in, but I did not see him anymore. And he did not come to me one evening when Vera was sitting at home with the children and wondering what to do next. The doorbell rang on the threshold. There was a courier who handed her a summons to court and a statement of claim. The divorce application for Vera was a shock to hear the news. She realized that Zakar probably simply could not have acted differently. His male dignity was hurt the next morning. She called Yakov again. After listening to her, he clarified who would be the judge and said, Vera, you go to work and do nothing. I will look through the case materials and call you back. Okay. I am waiting, and tell me, is it possible to find out where Zakar is hiding? I cannot find him. And that in the statement of claim, his address is not indicated, the address of the law firm, and the details of the lawyer are indicated. Who is the lawyer in our regional center? There are not many of them. A lawyer named Olga. Here is also a business card attached. I know her. She is a competent lawyer and works very carefully. You do not talk to her too much. Anything you say can be used against you. Lawyers are also treacherous. Yes, especially women. What should I do? Wait. What should I do? Wait for my call. Yakov kept his promise and called Vera back. I looked at the case materials. Nothing special. Everything is standard. It's in court. Insists on consideration for 3 months. And what next? As I said, the case will be postponed. You will have time to prepare for the second round. What do you mean? If you can't persuade him to come home, you will have to file a lawsuit for alimony. I will also use my connections to block his access to work, not only where he works now, but also at other enterprises in the area. Explain to him that you can only live peacefully at home with you and the children, especially autumn is coming soon. You won't be able to stand it if he visits friends a couple of times. The police will come and draw up reports on the owner and on him. As a result, 3 months later, the trial took place. Despite the defendant's resistance, the judge ruled for divorce. Then they began to act against Zakar using new methods. On the day of his dismissal, Zakar went to see a friend for the director and took his things as well as a package with the results of the children's DNA tests. Having looked through them, he was convinced that he was not their father. Closer to evening, Zakar left the city. It was a long way to go, but he was in no hurry. The highway was free, few cars. He spent almost the whole night on the road, and by dawn arrived at his destination on the road. Zakar. How to bring Vera and the father of her children to clean water. If this person really was the district prosecutor, Yakov Alexeyevich. The task was becoming difficult. However, Zakar had one adventurous idea that required careful preparation. The entrance to the district center, he stopped at a gas station. There, took a shower, had breakfast in a cafe, filled up the car. The gas station made a good impression on him. There, Zakar clarified where the company was, where he was heading. The brisk waitress answered, "If you wait half an hour, my shift is ending. I will show you the way. I live across the street from them, and I need to annoy some of our workers. You are a healthy man. I think you can handle a degree. I really need it, and you are in no hurry. There was another accident there last night, and the last machine stopped before 9. There will be no one on the premises." Zakar grinned. He didn't have time to arrive, and they were already dragging him into some kind of showdown. he replied. I'll have breakfast for now. I'll fill up the car in just half an hour and it will pass. How did you know about the accident? My brother works there. I called him to pick me up home. The gas station attendant won't let me pass. Maybe he loves you. Then let him get a divorce, and I'll decide what to do with him. But he doesn't think about it. He has children, and today is my last day. Working here in an hour, they drove up to Veronica's house. She pointed to the fence. It's a company behind it. See the checkpoint and the gate about 50 meters from here. About the housing, an old woman lives across the house from us. She has a 2-story house and she rents out the second floor to the company as a hotel. Now it seems empty, but the company pays her to heat it. I'll call her, and then I'll let you know. They exchanged numbers. And Zakhar drove up to the company's gate. A sleepy guard came out of the checkpoint. He asked what was needed. I'd like to talk to the director, Svetlana Alexandrovna. Alexandrovna is not our director. She is the founder of the company, and the director ran away yesterday. I don't know why. They say he was chasing profit, but he drove the equipment away. It is imported and doesn't work for long without maintenance. But we didn't spare it. If it is designed for 100 items per shift, we need 100, not 110. Yesterday, everything stopped, and the director ran away. And what about Svetlana Alexandrovna? She's in the office. She has been spending the night there since yesterday. Call her and tell her that Zakhar has arrived from her brother's window. Drive in yourself. Go up to the second floor. This is Svetlana Alexandrovna. Zakhar drove into the yard, went up to the office, and saw a pretty woman about his age. She said that my brother recommended you as an equipment specialist. I haven't seen what you have in your workshop yet, and I can't say that I am a specialist. I have exactly the same equipment as my brother, and the same products work in my area. We are coordinating sales markets in my area. That's all you need to know. Okay. Let's go to the workshop. Let's take a look at the workshop. Zakhar immediately noticed that it was cleaner there than at his previous place of work, and that there were no workers. Svetlana Alexandrovna. Where are the workers? Svetlana Alexandrovna. Where are the workers? And the repair team? The workers went home in the morning. We couldn't start the equipment. We disbanded the repair team on the recommendation of the chief engineer, and the director decided that there was no need to keep them. If the equipment is new and does not require maintenance, how can I help? I need special clothing and a suit. It is inconvenient to repair and wrenches with your hands after all. You can't unscrew anything. Svetlana Alexandrovna told the truth. The equipment was the same as Zakhar's, only there was more of it, but now it was lifeless metal. Zakhar started the repair. Soon workers appeared, mostly young guys, who did not quite understand what needed to be done, but quickly, and they unquestioningly handed Zakhar the necessary tool for lunch. We managed to start the main equipment, and Svetlana invited Zakhar to go to the office. There were already office employees. Zakhar was taken to a separate room behind the director's office, where the table was set. Svetlana said, "We need to finish the repair today. Tell me how real this is." "Not a problem. The guys who helped me, let them stay. I think we can handle it. And what kind of malfunctions are there for everyone in different ways? Somewhere the contacts have weakened. The result is CPU insufficient to start the engine. Adjustments are required. And yes, the equipment is worn out due to excessive use." "Okay, you have a snack, and I'll take care of your arrangement. You need to live somewhere nearby. There is a 2-story house in the house. The owner rents us the second floor. You will have your own room with all the amenities. The renovation was finished by Shao night. Zakhar was falling off his feet. The night before that he barely slept. One of the guys working with him said, "You are a real specialist. Come to my place for dinner." But it seems like they have already assigned me somewhere. You saw the time. Granny won't check you in at such a time. You will break in. She will call the police, and I won't bother anyone there. I live with my sister. She showed you the way to our enterprise with a gas station. She worked there for the last day, as far as I understand. Yes. They hired her to work in our office. She has an accounting education. She graduated from the university, not to serve tea at a gas station. But she already has admirers there. She avoids them all. She doesn't go to dances when she is free. She digs in the garden or tidies up the house. This is a problem. She will cook something tasty. And yours, what is your name? We worked all day and didn't met. Nikolai, and didn't met Nikolai, and you Zakar, as far as I understand. That's exactly who you are listed as now. And it's not clear yesterday as a production line operator, and today as a foreman in the equipment repair and maintenance shop. I signed the order at lunchtime. The only difference is unclear, I think. In salaries and job responsibilities any minute now, and these same job responsibilities you should write to me. And who will they register me? As then I understand as a third category repairman. Are you serious enough until you figure out your alimony? Heard Svetlana Alexandrovna talking about this on the phone with someone. She said that she doesn't want to lose a specialist like you and will pay you most of your salary in envelopes, although she knows that it's illegal. Zakar went to the men's locker room, took a shower, changed clothes, and he and Nikolai left the Enterprise. Veronica, dressed in a modern tracksuit, was waiting for them at Nikolai's house. She said, "Wash up and go to the kitchen. Dinner is on the table." Nikolai and Zakar did. Just that when they sat down at the table, Nikolai, looking at his sister, said, "Veronica, dry spoon, mouth tears. Kolya, what kind of hints are these? I'm telling you straight, and what kind of ordinary holiday do we have? I've been promoted today. You work your last day, and tomorrow you're going to a new place. And yes, almost all the equipment is up and running." Veronica got out a bottle of moonshine from the hiding place and warned, "Look, it's very strong, double distilled. I kept it for compresses." Zakar sniffed the moonshine and answered, "And it doesn't smell like fish soup. I'll drink, but only one glass. Otherwise, I'll collapse." Zakar and Nikolai drank, and Veronica refused after the first glass. The bottle of moonshine from the table disappeared. Having had a good bite, Zakar soon stopped understanding about the World Cup conversation. Veronica noticed that he was very tired, took him to the guest room. When she looked in there a minute later to ask if he needed anything else, she saw that Zakar had fallen asleep. Nikolai went to sleep a little later. The last ones went to her bedroom. Veronica, having cleaned up the kitchen beforehand, Vera was lying in bed. She was not sleeping. She remembered on the day of the divorce. She took the children to her parents because she had to deal with the divorce. She called Yakov after the trial. He already knew about the results of the case, that Zakar and Vera were divorced. Alimony was collected from him. The unresolved issue of division of property remained. That day Yakov assured her that in the area no company would hire Zakar. After that, bailiffs would come into play, who would collect alimony from him because he does not work anywhere. We grounded him. It is known that Zakar quit and disappeared. He is not in the city. She called Yakov again. That connected the entire resource and confirmed the fact that Zakar is in the city and not in the area where he is. The police do not know Zakar went to work during his lunch break. When he was deciding where to go for lunch, Veronica suggested, "Zakar, we have a free room. We will not charge much for accommodation, only for food. But we have a lot of vegetables from the garden, and this is worth nothing to us." "How is it worth nothing? Any work should be paid. These vegetables grew thanks to work in the garden. I know that this is hard work. Let's discuss everything in the evening. And now you will not have lunch. And why in the evening? I think Kolya should also take part in the discussion of this issue." "Kolya didn't tell you. He has a girlfriend, and I think he will soon propose to her, especially since then I am superfluous in the house." "Not quite. So he will go to live with the bride, and I will remain in the house alone. So in the evening we will discuss everything. And by the way, today Svetlana Alexandrovna sent everyone who worked yesterday home from lunch, so after lunch I do not need to go anywhere." "Okay, let's go to lunch. There will be Kolya with his girlfriend." They came. Nikolai was sitting at the table with his girlfriend. Introduced his girlfriend. "Zakara, this is Anastasia, our lawyer. I saw you in the office. Tell me, Nast, can you advise me on what issue of family law? My friend Ekaterina deals with these issues. She is a lawyer and has a license. And you are a legal advisor, and for this, only a higher education is enough. And how much will your friend charge you for a consultation at the most favorable?" Nast organized a meeting between Zakara and Ekaterina On Saturday, they discussed the situation that had developed for Zakara. In the end, Katya advised Zakara, "You need to secretly do a DNA test between the children and the district prosecutor, Yakov, and file a lawsuit to recognize him as a father and remove your alimony obligations. But the main thing is that I didn't tell you anything. Why do it then to be 100% sure that he is the father? And how can I get it? Samples from him for the test? Well, I don't know. Maybe he gets his hair cut somewhere at the hairdresser's. I recommend that we involve our people for this. Detectives, yes, there will be expenses, but I think they are justified. And if you hire private agents from a detective agency in that area, and are you sure that they do not cooperate with the local police, and the police in turn can interact with the prosecutor's office? Therefore, it is better to involve people not from your area. Court's decision to collect 50% of the elements for child support from you is illegal. Even this is grounds for canceling the decision in terms of collection. Although this does not matter to us, we will seek to cancel the alimony in full, since then, by disputing your paternity, Zakar agreed with Ekaterina's proposal and agreed with the detective agency to secretly take samples for a DNA test. He paid them the agreed amount. A week later, the detectives brought the results of their work and handed them over to Zakar Iteri, a statement to the regional court to review the decision on a civil case based on newly discovered circumstances. The defendants were Zakhar's ex-wife and prosecutor Yakov Alexievich. In the statement, plaintiff demanded that the entry about the child support in the children's birth certificates be cancelled, and that the collection of alimony from him for their maintenance, giving the completed application to Zakhar Katya, said ready soon, will hit the fan. I found out that Yakov Alexievich's wife has 2 children. But this, not the main thing. Her father holds the position of first deputy regional prosecutor. This means nothing to me, answered Zakhar. This is the second position in the regional prosecutor's office. If everything is confirmed, Dad will grind his son-in-law into dust, and your ex-wife will not be well on the same day. Zakhar paid the state fee, took a day off from work, and took the application to the regional court. Having took the application to the regional court, waited for his turn at the judge's reception, he filed the application during the conversation. He said that a lawyer would represent me, although it is possible that I will come myself. What are you afraid of? And you look who is speaking with the defendant, especially since the judge will have to appoint a DNA test, and he is the son-in-law of the first deputy regional prosecutor, Petr Ivanovich. Everyone is equal before the law. An official response followed. Zakhar left the building of the regional court. At this time, the judge called, Petr Ivanovich, here. An interesting paper has come to us for consideration, and how can I help you? Cannot help me in any way, but your son-in-law, Yakov Alexievich Yashka, is acting as the defendant. And how serious is everything according to the plaintiff's statement and his explanation? Your son-in-law is listed as the father of 2 children, but for some reason, he is not the one paying child support. I will send you the materials by fax. What are you going to do? It's a lawyer from the area. I know her as a competent and smart lawyer. Recently received a license, but has already established herself as a professional. Clients are happy with her. Okay, send the papers. I will study and think. Zakhar could not even imagine what a storm began. In half an hour, a copy of the statement of claim was lying on the desk of the regional prosecutor. The prosecutor carefully studied the document, took out from the desk drawer a proposal from one of the employees to nominate Yakov Alexievich for a position in the regional prosecutor's office. It was obvious that this proposal was written under the dictation of Pyotr Ivanovich, who was helping his son-in-law make a career. However, it looks like he ruined everything for himself. The prosecutor summoned the first deputy. Pyotr Ivanovich appeared immediately. The prosecutor put a copy of the statement of claim in front of him and asked, I think I have already read it. Having assessed the document, Pyotr Ivanovich replied, Yes, I have already received a copy by fax from the court. What will you do? You need to check the stated facts so far. Nothing. You see, Peter. As far as I understand, A copy of this lawsuit will soon end up on the prosecutor general's desk. Personally, I'm not going to put my head in harm's way, and I don't advise you what to do. Divorce your daughter from Yakov, especially since he'll soon have serious problems, and don't interfere with the DNA tests. If you show up there, you'll only ruin your career. I'm telling you this not as a boss, but as a friend. Maybe this is a mistake or a slander. Why should Zakhar put himself in harm's way? He's not a fool. He understands that you can get into trouble for slander for a couple of years. So it's better to be on the safe side. Let Yakov get out of this himself. And you. Take him away from him. I've already sent the car to the air and talked to Nika on the phone. How badly she took it. She said that she was castrating him, which means he doesn't know yet. I don't think so far. The court should send them a copy of the lawsuit. This is if Zakhar himself didn't send it. We don't know his address. In the case, he only has an email and a lawyer's contact information. He's been paying alimony for a long time. Judging by the lawsuit, he hasn't paid it yet. At that time, Yakov Alexeyevich was in prison. His office, he hated his boss fiercely. He hated the district prosecutor, Ignat Stepanovich, for everything, mainly because he took the post of district prosecutor and was not going to give up his place. And this was a necessary step for moving up the career ladder. At the same time, Yakov knew that his father-in-law was preparing the ground for his transfer to the regional prosecutor's office. This was not even 1 but 3 steps up. Once there, Yakov planned to send his father-in-law into retirement and take his place. Ignat Stepanovich entered the office and was not healthy, he said. Well, what did Yashka do? What do you mean Yakov was surprised? Or maybe I mean an application was received in the regional court for a review of the decision on a civil case in connection with newly discovered circumstances. Your mistress is the defendant, and a certain Vera is the co-defendant, and her ex-husband Zakhar is the plaintiff. Their court decision on divorce has not yet entered into legal force. By the way, he has not paid alimony yet. She was in the department at that time when Yakov called her. He started the conversation with a question, "Can you speak?" realizing that it was about something important, and the conversation was not for strangers' ears. Vera went out into the corridor. Now I can no one nearby know what happened. You don't know anything. What should I know? Your husband filed an application with the regional court to review the case in connection with the circumstances that have come to light. What circumstances did he somehow find out that I am the father of your children and is demanding an examination? And what will happen? You can't fool a DNA test, but the following will happen. I will be thrown out of the prosecutor's office, and at best I will become a legal advisor at some enterprise, but not in this city, and not in this area. You know why. Why? Because there is not a single director here whom I would not annoy. They all love me. They hate me, and I will have nowhere to live. My wife hasn't called yet, but I think my father-in-law has already told her or will tell her. But you can come live with me. You haven't resolved the issue of dividing the property yet. Yes. And how are you going to live on your own? Your director will throw you out of work as soon as he realizes that you no longer have a roof over your head to raise these children. Why? Because I don't know them, but I offered you to meet them. I don't need this. I have my own children, and these are not yours. I don't know, but I know, and I am telling you they were born thanks to your direct participation, Yakov. Realize that Vera wants to take advantage of the current situation and plans to bring another husband into the house with the loss of one, but he has long cooled towards her. He had a girlfriend with whom he carefully hid the relationship from everyone. However, now his usual well-established world has turned upside down. He understood that his father-in-law not only will not lend a shoulder, but will also try to drown him completely as an option. Yakov considered finding Zakhar to persuade or force Oz to make a statement, but to meet with Zakhar. He was afraid too fresh in the memory was the story with Kirill Fedorovich, who was forced to run naked through the nettles in Yakov's opinion. Then Kirill was more afraid not of Burns about Zakhar's rage. Then it was necessary not to follow Vera's lead, but to lock Zakhar up at least for 34 years, realizing that his position was becoming more precarious. The ones that were in his production for transfer. In the meantime, Ekaterina called Zakhar. Excitement could be heard in her voice. Zakhar, you can't even imagine what's going on there. The whole region is on edge. My sources from your city reported that Yakov's wife left for the region with the children. The locks were changed in their cottage, and it was handed over to guard. The new owner is also. Zakhar was surprised. No, his wife is the owner. The cottage is a gift from her father. What should I do? No talk about this with anyone? Any negotiations? Only in my presence, and only I will talk. I understood. In the evening, Zakhar invited Veronica to the cinema. She, surprised by the unexpected offer, asked, "And what about Kolya? And what Kolya? And what needs to cook dinner? He has Nastya. But he needs to be warned. I've already said everything." He just left the office and went to the shop to change. Nastya knows that we're going to the movies. After the movie, Zakhar and Veronica returned home closer to 10 p.m. Nikolai and Nastya were waiting for them in the living room. They were sitting and watching TV. When they saw those who had arrived, she unexpectedly suggested, "Let's have dinner." When everyone went into the kitchen, "Let's have dinner." Turned out that the table was already set, and in the center there was a bottle of champagne. Zakhar immediately understood what was happening. He turned to Nastya with a smile, saying that Nikolai had finally proposed and even given him a ring. Nastya happily responded, "We suggest having a formal dinner. And by the way, today I'll stay overnight with you. It's closer to work from here. And in a week, Kolya and I will move in with me." Zakhar's life is gradually becoming a profit. Officially, he was listed as a third-class repairman, but in fact, all production in terms of repair work was under his control. Veronica, who worked in the accounting department, often shared with him in the evenings over dinner that her job, not so difficult in her life, too little has changed. Previously, she cooked dinner for her brother. Now she cooked for Zakhar. Together, they spent weekends on a small garden plot or went to the city market for groceries. One day, Ekaterina called Zakhar to tell him the news. Zakhar was scheduled for a hearing. And why such a delay? He asked the court. As part of the preparation of the case, an examination and an expert to conduct it. Ekaterina explained what kind of examination. DNA test. But I was not involved in this. There was simply no need for it. We attached the results of the DNA test, which proved that you are not the father. The court has no reason not to believe these results. On the appointed day, Ekaterina and Zakhar were in the courtroom. Veronica was also sitting on the bench for listeners. Zakhar was surprised by her presence, but she answered with a smile, "I am in the support group." The defendants, Yakov and Vera, were clearly not in the mood. Through her connections, Ekaterina found out the results of the DNA examination. Following the hearing of the case, Zakhar's claims were satisfied in full. However, she had previously filed a counterclaim demanding the collection of alimony for child support from Jacob, and the court granted it. Demands. After the meeting, Veronica approached Ekaterina and Zakhar with a proposal. "Guys, maybe we should celebrate this." Ekaterina replied, "I'm actually driving. I still have to drive you home, Katya. Let's stop by our place." Veronica suggested, "I'll set the table. Let's call Nikolai and Nastya. Let them come too." "Okay," Ekaterina agreed, "but Nastya will set the table for our arrival, and I'll leave the car at home on the way and leave you by taxi, or you can spend the night with us." Zakhar added, "Okay, let's go." At that moment, Vera approached them. "Zakhar, can we talk about the World Cup?" Ekaterina and Veronica tactfully walked away. Leaving them alone, "I want to ask you for forgiveness for everything I've done." Vera started. "I acted very badly towards you. Yes, I forgave you a long time ago. Now you can live calmly and openly with Yakov. I can only he doesn't want it." Vera smiled bitterly. "That's why I insisted on collecting alimony from him. By the way, you have a nice lawyer, and the girl from the support group is good. Where did you find such people? Do you know when the court decision will come into legal force?" I'll probably propose to her lawyer or what? No, the one from the support group is a good choice, Vera said, with slight sadness. And I was wrong when I agreed to your proposal. And I was wrong only once when I did it calmly, answered Yuzakar. As a result, after 2 months, Yakar proposed to Veronica at their wedding. The whole enterprise was celebrating. Vera was left alone with 2 children. The director of her enterprise began to show her signs of attention. But his wife quickly stopped. This transparently hinted, and the matter may not end after that. The courtship stopped. Yakov Alexievich was forced to leave the district center where everyone hated him. He moved to the region to his parents. At a large enterprise as a legal advisor, the management, knowing about his alimony obligations, was closing. They lived in the house, but often visited Zakar and Veronica. And that's where the story ends. Thinking out loud, I just want to say one thing. Everyone got what they deserved. What do you think about this? I'm waiting for your comments.